Hello friends, today I want to talk about the differences between vector and array list. Even though they both implement the list interface and they both have most of the similar features that they share with, but there is still some fundamental differences between vector and array list that you should understand. If you go into any Java related reviews, then there may be rare chances that this question is never asked. So which means you have more than 80% of the chances that you will get questions with what are the differences between vector and array list. So this is very important. So just listen to carefully. So what is the array list? Array list. Let's go with what is the differences first. So ArrayList and Vector, they both are meant to be representing the similar entities or objects or elements, right? Within the single entity. That's the main purpose of this. However, there are some differences. So the differences is that ArrayList came into 1.2, whereas Vector came in 1.0, which means Vector came from the beginning on the Java, which is also considered to be legacy collection, and ArrayList is considered to be, it came in 1.2. That's what has been widely used, so this can never be phased out. So there are another things, the size of the incremental, right? So vector grows 100%, so which means if from the initial capacity starts with a 10, and then next, so when you are have any object that you want to add at 11th element, then it will add another 10, which means it will just double the size. As far as the ArrayList has its own different set of mathematics that it will take with. So ArrayList, you can say the averages of the ArrayList would go for roughly 50% from the initial capacity. So if there's any initial capacity is 10, then when you are adding the 11th element into ArrayList, then it will go with the current capacity multiplies by 2 by 3 to divide by 3 plus 1. So that's the mathematics that ArrayList shares. So that's how it continues to add the growable array index dynamically, right? So next thing is, ArrayList is faster because it's not synchronized, and then vector is slow because it cannot be accessed across multi-threaded environment. So it will wait until thread is released. So if the thread is runnable, then and there's another thread which is non-runnable state, then it will wait until the runnable thread releases the lock. So which means if there's any deadlock, that vector is just does not do anything. It will just wait, and so it will be slower the performance that way. If you talk about ArrayList, when you have to loop through the ArrayList, you can use enhanced for loop or iterator, or you can even use for loop. But if you want to loop through vector, then you'll be able to loop through, you cannot loop through iterator, but you can loop through enumerations, or you can loop through the enhanced for loops. Okay, these are basically the fundamental differences between vector and ArrayList. So just be careful, and hope you don't get confused with this, and you'll be able to explain more clearly. So let's go with how you actually code the vectors and what are the differences, right? So let's go with that. So I'm going to write a main method here. So main method is there. So I'm going to create an object. Let me show you creating objects some differently. So let me do this first. Public void my vector, right? So I'm going to write some called vector string is equal to new vector, right? So you'll have to definitely import this. It's part of the util. So let's add the vectors. vector vector dot add. I will just add hello, right? and then let's just add duplicates for now, and then let me just print this out. And let's see what this does. Wait, it has never been called, so let's run that before. So a good thing is it did compile. So new and dot my vector. You can just do that in one line. I'm just being lazy. You could otherwise just create instantiate this class like a vector and ArrayList v equals new, and then in next line you can just call by the object, but I'm just being lazy. So let's that go through. It is coming, so which means it is doing all of the duplicates and it is printing them out correctly. So let's add some null values here, what it does. So let's add a couple null values and see what it does, and looks like it is happy with null also, right? So but you cannot add numbers because you are you have the generic saying that this is a this is not the number type, so which is this is not the integer, right? So I'll let that be null. So let's do some loop here. So when you do loop, what you do is you will just there are a couple ways you can do. First thing is you can for that's a string yes equals vector. This is enhanced for loop. This is pretty good thing. So you'll just print this out, and then let's see what this does here. So it is printing them out. So there's another way you can loop this. So for now let me remove this guy out. So let's run the other way, other loop. Other loop would be for vector. You would use enumeration. Enumeration is same as iterator. So string em equals and then you would do just like iterator but just differently. So you write vector dot elements, right? And then what you do is just import this guy out, and then let's do that while em dot has more elements. So if you go to ArrayList, the difference is that it says has next, right? So while em dot has next, something like that, instead of enumeration you would write iterator, and then here you would say instead of vector you would say list dot iterator, right? So if let's suppose that this vector is a list object, so you would write so if this was a list, this is how you would write with that line 26. So let's do with that. So the vector, this is one type of for loop you can do for vector, and there's another one you can do. You can use with the enumeration. Enumeration is basically the legacy type of iterator. You can consider that. So let's do this. So I just want to print this out. String e equals em dot has next element. So that's the thing you have to get, has more elements and then next elements. Okay, so here if you want to put some if conditions, you're free to do so. You can get this guy to compare across these values, and then you can just put the if conditions here, or you want to do the switch, anything you want to put, any conditional statements is fine. And in my condition I just want to print this out. Okay, I will say e, and then it will just give me that all thing here. So what this does is it just loops over. Okay, so this is one type of for loop you can do, and this is one type of a loop you can do, and this is how the vector works. Okay, and if you go through the list here, if you go through the list, let's get, instead of this guy, let's copy this whole thing over so that you can see the fundamental difference how you do. let's assume this is the array list, right? Array list. So let's add this guy. Okay, and this is also array list, and then let's import the array list. Array list is import, and let's change this name by array list, and this is this here AR list. So let's put that over. So here this is the list now, and it is working fine with the enhanced loop. So now here you want to put this with the same thing with array list, and you see what the difference is here. If you hover here, you see that these elements does not work. It says a cast, so which means you have to type cast basically, which means it is not reading that properly, right? So which means this method does not work with array list. So here in array list you have to put iterator, right? Iterator, and I'll let that guy there, and then I'll put dot. This is the one you have to use, and let's import the iterator too. So it will be util.iterator, and then instead of has more element, you would write has next, right? And then instead of next element, you write next. Okay, and then rest is the same. So this is the main difference. So if you see here, this guy with this guy, that's the difference with the list and the array list, a list and the vector. So if you see here, this is how you would do the vector to loop through. You would use enumerations, and you have all legacy methods. And if you use the list, you would use iterator, and you would use iterator method and has next. Okay. So that's all about the array list and vectors difference, and there's not so other thing you can actually think of. Let's see this one. Dot. Let me put this method here and copy this guy over. Okay. So now I'm going to run the both of these values, and you see they both are working fine. Let me comment this one out so that you know which one is what and running, and this is just fine. This is now coming from this array list. Okay, it has a null value, and it is doing it, so it is running first loop, and then it is running second loop. Same type of same features, so like accepting multiple null values, multiple duplicate values, preserving insertion order. This all feature retains from the list. So don't get confused, and I hope this will be really helpful for you and understanding what vector is there for you. Okay, thank you very much, and please continue to watch my video and subscribe my channel, and we will look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.